They're not dating?
No, they're not. They better not be dating right now.
They're 15. They've got to have boyfriends or girlfriends or something. That's an age you start like being interested.
That's how Lil Scrappy started. His voice wasn't just tired. It carried the weight of years. Of silence, of things seen but never said. Bro, I'm telling you, I never thought I'd see the day. But here we are. Diddy going down. For most people, it was just headlines. Another celebrity scandal, they said. But to Scrappy, this wasn't just another name on a trending list. This was something far deeper. Something that had been bubbling in the background for years. A storm gathering behind velvet ropes and champagne towers. I'm conflicted, Scrappy admitted. On one side, yeah, innocent until proven guilty. We supposed to believe in that. But on the other side, we all heard the stories. They weren't new. They just got louder. And then came the details. Strange ones. Disturbing ones. Ones the media paraded like punchlines, but Scrappy couldn't laugh at. You remember the raid? He said they found 1,000 bottles of baby oil in that man's house. 1,000. That ain't even normal. What you need all that for? It would have been easy to brush it off. Kinky parties, adult fun, rich people doing rich people things. But Scrappy's tone turned cold. They not telling y'all what's in that baby oil. That's the part they keep skipping. He leaned, and the tension in his voice thickened. I heard things, bro. That oil, it wasn't just for show. They was mixing it with drinks, slipping it to people. You don't even know what's happening to you till it's too late. You forget everything. This wasn't a conspiracy. This was a confession. And it wasn't just the baby oil. The deeper Scrappy went, the darker it got. He brought up Blink Twice, a fictional film about a billionaire who invites women to a private island for luxury, drugs, and eventually manipulation, isolation, abuse. That movie, he said, it's not fiction, bro. That's real. That's what's been going down. Just different names. According to Scrappy, women were showing up to these exclusive parties thinking they'd be there for the weekend. Instead, they were drugged, locked away, kept confused, and used, sometimes for weeks. They thought it was just a wild trip, he said, but they were trapped. They just didn't realize it till it was too late. He wasn't speculating. From the sidelines, he'd seen it. Not all of it, but enough. New Year's Eve, 2018. Diddy's Miami mansion. That night was wild, he recalled. Everybody who was anybody was there. The music, the energy, electric. But something felt off. I ain't go into no back rooms. Not because I wasn't invited. I couldn't do it. Didn't feel right. Scrappy said he left around 3 a.m., thinking the party was over. But the next morning, his phone wouldn't stop ringing. 9 a.m., he said, and people still there, still going. I was like, yo, what the hell are y'all still doing in another man's house at that hour? The more he replayed it in his head, the more it disturbed him. At the time, I thought it was just rich folks going to hard. But now, I see it for what it was. That ain't partying. That's power. That's control. That's ritual. He shook his head. I like freaky stuff, yeah. But this was kinky in the worst way. And not just kinky, twisted. Not pleasure. Not consent. Just domination. Scrappy paused, letting that sink in. His voice dropped to almost a whisper. You want to know the craziest part? He asked. Everybody was there. A-listers, influencers, executives, rappers, singers, models, athletes. Everyone had brushed up against it at some point, and everyone stayed quiet. He paused again, then said it clearer, because silence keeps you safe. But for Lil Scrappy, that changed the moment the Cassie footage dropped. That was it, he said. I saw how Diddy treated her. How? He threw her around like that. I couldn't stay quiet no more. I got daughters, bro. I can't be out here pretending like it ain't real. Like it ain't happening. He admitted that before that. He held onto the idea of fairness. That an accusation without proof was just noise. I used to say, show me the evidence, he said. But after that video, nah, let that man go wherever he going. I can't defend it. That's when things turned. Once Scrappy spoke up, he noticed something shift. Headlines about him started changing. Old rumors started resurfacing. And then, a bombshell. A judge quietly signed off on warrants tied to Scrappy himself. They said it was unrelated, he said. But come on, y'all really think that was a coincidence? Right after I go public, the whispers began immediately. They coming for anybody who talks, some insiders warned. Scrappy's words had stirred up more than just outrage. They'd stirred up fear. Because if what he said was true, if what he described really was happening, it didn't stop. At Diddy, it went way deeper. The freak-offs, they weren't just for show, he said. They were cover for something bigger, something darker. He started drawing comparisons. R. Kelly and Hugh Hefner both had young women around. Both had control. But one died in his mansion with twin girlfriends. The other got buried in a cell. What's the difference? His answer was simple. Same acts, different skin. And then, finally, he turned to something bigger, something heavier, something spiritual. All this, he said, it's in the Bible, man. It's the end times. What's wrong gonna be right? What's right gonna be wrong? They gonna come for you if you don't bow your head and go along. But he wasn't scared. I don't care what happens to me, he said. I just want people to know, to stop pretending, to stop covering up what they know is going on. The fallout was immediate. Clips of Scrappy's interviews exploded across social media. Then they vanished, removed, censored, suppressed. Some blogs pulled entire articles. Others questioned his mental state. Was he okay? Was he paranoid? Or was he telling the truth? But in the middle of the noise, one thing was clear. Lil Scrappy had seen too much. And unlike the rest, he wasn't afraid to say it out loud. After Lil Scrappy opened the floodgates with his explosive revelations about Diddy and the sinister culture behind the scenes, the world didn't clap. It got quiet. Uncomfortably quiet. The media buzzed for 48 hours. Then suddenly, gone. Clips vanished from blogs. Headlines were pulled. Social accounts that shared his videos began shadow banning themselves. And Scrappy knew right away. They weren't just ignoring him. They were trying to erase him. They ain't just mad, he said. They scared. 'Cause once the truth comes out, you can't put it back in the bottle. But Lil Scrappy didn't fold. He doubled down. He started doing interviews. Not with mainstream platforms, but with underground voices, truth tellers, indie creators. Anywhere he could speak freely, he spoke. And each time, he painted the picture clearer. Those parties, he said, they weren't parties. They were hunting grounds. He talked about Diddy's obsession with control. The way guests were filtered, models, influencers, socialites selected with precision. You couldn't just show up, Scrappy explained. You had to be brought in, introduced, vouched for. And once you were inside, you didn't leave the same. What shocked people most wasn't just what happened behind closed doors. It was who was allegedly there. Scrappy stopped just short of dropping names, but made one thing clear. This ain't no solo act. It's a network. Executives, artists, politicians, billionaires. The freak-offs weren't just wild parties. They were power rituals, loyalty tests, control mechanisms, and the baby oil. He added, still think it's just for show? That SH was used to make people forget. That ain't no party. That's programming. As Scrappy's interviews began to trend again, whispers turned into warnings. Anonymous sources started contacting journalists. Some claimed Scrappy's statements had triggered internal investigations. Others alleged his name came up during sealed court proceedings. And then it happened. A sealed warrant, quietly issued and quickly leaked, allegedly targeting Scrappy on unrelated charges, financial irregularities, old business dealings, paperwork issues. But the timing, too perfect, too clean, they trying to flip the script. Scrappy said, "They want to make me the criminal now." That's what happens when you tell the truth. He wasn't alone in that fear. Whistleblowers from other corners of the industry began speaking up anonymously. A former dancer described a ritual room at a Hollywood Hills mansion. A studio intern recalled hearing women screaming behind closed doors, only to be told to ignore it or lose their job. Still, the mainstream media hesitated. Why? Because Diddy wasn't just a celebrity. He was a pillar, a business mogul, a media darling, a billionaire with deep roots in entertainment, politics, and culture. Taking him down meant shaking the entire tree. But Scrappy wasn't here for politics. "I don't want fame off this," he said. "I want the rot exposed. I want the machine unplugged." He started calling out the double standards again. How black artists were punished for things white moguls were praised for. How the same media that destroyed R. Kelly stayed silent about Hugh Hefner. One man builds an empire off women and dies rich. He said, the other dies in a cage. And then came the real twist. Someone leaked surveillance footage. Not from Diddy's mansion, but from a lesser-known property. It showed masked individuals leading intoxicated women through a side entrance. The clip was grainy but unmistakable. And while it wasn't immediately tied to Diddy, the timing of the leak, paired with Scrappy's interviews, sparked a wildfire. Online forums exploded. Reddit threads hit the front page. Twitter, X lit up. Instagram lives went viral. Scrappy was telling the truth. This goes deeper than we thought. But for Lil Scrappy, the cost was getting heavier. Brand deals started to fall apart. A clothing company quietly pulled a collab. A podcast appearance was canceled without notice. Some of his closest industry friends stopped answering his calls. That's how they do you, he said. They isolate you, make you look crazy, like you imagining things. And it worked for a moment. Even fans began to question him. Why now? Why speak up after all these years? If it was that bad, why not say something earlier? But Scrappy had answers for all of it. Because I didn't know how bad it really was. Not until I connected the dots. Not until I saw the tape of Cassie. Not until I remembered what I saw in that house in 2018. When it finally clicked, I couldn't stay quiet. He shared that one of his friends, a woman who had once attended one of Diddy's parties, reached out to him crying. She told him things he didn't even want to repeat, and it broke him. She said, I didn't even know what happened to me till a year later. That's when I knew. This ain't just parties. This is predation. The deeper Scrappy went, the more dangerous it became. Suddenly, blogs started spinning a new narrative that he was mentally unstable, angry, seeking attention, that he had an axe to grind, that he had financial problems and was acting out. But Scrappy kept his cool. If I wanted clout, I'd be on TV right now acting like nothing happened. I'd be kissing rings. I'm speaking because I have. 2, because the people who saw what I saw, they still scared. That fear, he said, is what's protected the machine for so long. They got people by the throat. This. Threats. Blackmail. You speak, and you lose everything. But he made one final promise. I'm not going away, even if they come for me. Even if they try to bury me. I'm gonna keep speaking. By the time the month ended, more names were being whispered. More lawsuits were being quietly filed. More alleged victims were coming forward, some tying their stories to events that happened years ago, at addresses once owned by Diddy or his associates. And at the center of it all, Lil Scrappy. Not a hero, not a saint, just a man who saw too much and said something. The question now wasn't whether he was telling the truth. The question was, How many others knew and stayed silent? Because what started as whispers in back rooms had become a storm tearing through the halls of power. And while Diddy's empire crumbled piece by piece, the industry that protected him was being forced to look at itself in the mirror. And somewhere in the silence between headlines and hashtags, Lil Scrappy's voice kept echoing.